Almost every substance that enters our bodies every day has the potential to deliver its own lethal dose. Considering that 3 grams of regular table salt per kilogram of body weight is poison for the average person, the consumption of 200 to 250 grams in one sitting can be deadly. Even a single dose of 4.5 liters or 1 gallon of drinking water can cause any of us to bite the dust. It would not make sense for any person in their right mind to stuff themselves with such a high amount of salt or water. Plus, it is almost physically impossible to do so. Most likely, you'll get sick to your stomach and vomit even after ingesting a third of the lethal dose. However, there are totally different kinds of substances that are able to cause death in dozens of people, even if consumed in microscopic doses. You won't even be able to detect the presence of such substances in your body until the first symptom appears. By then, any attempts to save your life will be unsuccessful. You'll have a very painful death ahead of you. So, what are those deadliest substances on the planet like? What kinds of torment will your body have to go through if you inadvertently consume at least a millionth part of a gram of that killer substance? So, let me introduce you to Polonium-210. This extremely rare radioactive substance has a short half-life, only 138 days. During its half-life, an enormous amount of energy is released. Just 1 gram of Polonium-210 produces up to 140 watts of energy. Because of this quality, the substance is used in spacecraft as a source of heat and energy. Despite the fact that Polonium-210 is very reactive, its alpha radiation dissipates all of its energy confined to a very short distance. This means that a radioactive isotope is relatively harmless as long as you're at a safe distance. However, if the substance is ingested with food or air, it becomes incredibly toxic, and death from acute radiation damage is unavoidable if you don't receive medical assistance in time. One problem, though, it is very difficult to detect Polonium-210, especially if the radioactive isotope has already entered the human body. The first symptoms can be mistaken by physicians for common food poisoning, and only when the patient begins to lose hair will the doctors suspect that something deadly is at play. To date, there are several documented cases of poisoning with Polonium-210. One of them occurred in 2006 when Russian Alexander Litvinenko drank tea mixed with a radioactive isotope. As soon as Polonium-210 got into the victim's body, its alpha radiation literally began to bombard internal organs, primarily the mucous membranes of the stomach and intestines, causing nausea, sharp pain, and internal bleeding. The earlier these symptoms appear, the higher the radiation dose that a person has received. Within 4 hours after ingestion of polonium into the body, there's almost no chance of recovery. Most of the radiation affects the bone marrow that is responsible for immunity. The more the victim suffers, the fewer red blood cells will be in the body. As a result, the blood will gradually become so thin that it will no longer be able to saturate the vital organs with oxygen. And, most importantly, the heart. As soon as this vital organ cannot receive enough oxygen, it will stop working, and the blood flow to the brain will stop. But this is not the only option for possible painful death in the progression of radiation sickness. But in any case, only 1 microgram of Polonium-210 is enough for inevitable death, which makes it the most dangerous radioactive element. But in the list of the deadliest substances in the world, it's far from first place. No matter how dangerous Polonium-210 is, botulinum, the botulism-causing bacteria, is 500 times more toxic. In 2013, the California Department of Public Health received biological samples of a child suffering from botulism. A child's digestive system is not yet fully formed. Therefore, diseases that an adult may have developed immunity to, the child has not yet developed. However, the usual examinations to be carried out by the department would include the use of botulism serum to increase the chances for recovery. But this time, the doctors discovered something completely different: botulinum toxin H, which turned out to be incredibly dangerous and immune to the effects of the standard medicine. The discovery impressed the researchers so much that they decided to keep the DNA of the new toxin secret to prevent the production of chemical weapons of mass destruction. This unique bacterium is deadly at 2 nanograms. That's 2 billionths of a gram, which is even less than 1 red blood cell, which can only be distinguished under a microscope. Take for comparison the most effective chemical weapon ever created by man, VX gas. It's an incredibly powerful thing, but for it to kill requires a dose of at least 10 milligrams, which is much more than the lethal dose of botulinum toxin H. To better understand just how dangerous botulinum toxin H is, let's conduct a mental experiment. Imagine a pool filled with water. If you drop 1 drop of the substance, mix and collect a glass of water after that, it will be fatal. Under certain circumstances, this drop can kill 1 million people. If you drink this glass of toxin, all the functions of your body will be impaired. Usually, our muscles contract under the influence of a substance called acetylcholine. However, the lethal substance blocks the acetylcholine receptors of the muscles and slowly paralyzes you. The usual botulinum toxin A also has this property, and it is widely used in cosmetics. Injections containing a microscopic dose of the poison relaxes the muscles of the face and eliminates wrinkles. In cosmetology, this procedure is better known as Botox, but there are no such beneficial uses for botulinum toxin H. In 12 to 36 hours after you've drunk the poisoned water from the pool, your eyesight will deteriorate, your eyelids will barely open, and your speech will become unintelligible. First, botulinum toxin H attacks the nerves extending from the brainstem, which are responsible for the controlling of eyes, mouth, and throat. Then you'll start to suffer from constipation because the muscles of the colon will also be paralyzed. But this isn't the worst part. One of the most characteristic symptoms of botulinum toxin poisoning is that it does not affect the victim's mental state. When this paralysis wave sweeps through your body, your mind will remain fully aware of what's happening. Only you and the doctors won't be able to do a thing about it. In the meantime, the toxin will continue to have a devastating effect. After the face, paralysis spreads to the shoulders and arms. Then you'll need artificial ventilation just to breathe, since your diaphragm will stop working. The chest muscles allow the lungs to expand, filling them with air. But when they can't contract anymore, you'll feel as if a man weighing 500 pounds is sitting on your chest. As a result, you'll not be able to breathe enough air to maintain vital activity in your brain. Since nerve cells need constant oxygenation, they'll begin to die within 15 seconds after your last breath. A few minutes later, biological death will occur, which will have been caused by a poison with a volume less than the period at the end of a sentence. But if you look at the situation from the bright side, your body will be smooth and wrinkle-free. Fortunately, the probability of being poisoned by polonium-210 or botulinum toxin H is quite low. Getting into a car accident is statistically much more likely. However, the very existence of such dangerous substances that can quietly enter the body is frightening. In addition to these deadly things, we're constantly surrounded by billions of microscopic killers that, under certain circumstances, can end someone's life. But we'll explore that in one of our future videos. If you like my video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell so you don't miss notifications about new videos. And get your friends to watch too. It's much more interesting to discuss similar topics together. See you next time.